Deep inside the tropical forests of South America, something extraordinary happens every single day. An ordinary carpenter ant leaves its colony and begins walking through the forest. It is searching for food and following the chemical trails left by other ants. Nothing appears unusual, but somewhere in the environment, microscopic fungal spores may already be waiting. The ant has no idea that its life may be about to change forever. The fungus responsible is called Ophiocordyceps. It is a group of parasitic fungi that has evolved to infect insects. Some species have developed a remarkably specific relationship with ants. The fungus does not simply kill its host immediately. Instead, it begins a slow process that can eventually transform the infected ant into what looks like something from a horror movie. The first step begins when fungal spores come into contact with the ant. A spore can attach itself to the insect's hard outer body, known as the exoskeleton. If the conditions are right, the fungus begins to grow. Tiny fungal structures slowly develop and penetrate the ant's body. At this point, the infection is almost invisible. The ant may continue walking. It may continue searching for food. It may even return to its colony. But inside its body, the fungus is growing. The fungus now faces a difficult problem. It needs the ant to survive long enough for the infection to develop. But eventually, it also needs to change the ant's behavior. And this is where the story becomes truly strange. As the infection progresses, the ant begins to behave differently. Scientists have discovered that infected ants can leave their normal environment and move away from the colony. This is extremely important. A healthy ant colony is a dangerous place for the fungus. Thousands of ants live close together, constantly cleaning each other and removing anything that could threaten the colony. If an infected ant dies inside the nest, the fungus may never get the opportunity to reproduce. So the infected ant has to leave. The ant begins moving away from the colony. It leaves the familiar trails. It leaves the other workers behind. And slowly it begins climbing. The exact behavior can vary depending on the species of fungus and the species of ant. But in some famous examples, infected carpenter ants are driven toward a very specific location in the forest. The fungus needs a precise combination of conditions. The temperature must be suitable, the humidity must be high enough, and the ant must end up in a position where the fungus can spread its spores effectively. The ant is not simply wandering randomly. It is being pushed toward a location that is perfect for the fungus. Eventually, the ant reaches a leaf, but it does not stop just anywhere. In some species, the infected ant is driven toward the underside of a leaf, often in a location with conditions that are ideal for the fungus. Then something happens that has become one of the most famous examples of parasite-controlled behavior in nature. The ant bites down, its jaws clamp onto the leaf, and the ant does not let go. The ant eventually dies. Its body remains attached to the leaf. For the colony, the ant is gone. But for the fungus, this is only the beginning. The dead ant has now become a biological platform, a place where the fungus can continue its life cycle. Inside the dead insect, the fungus continues to grow. The fungal cells spread through the body. They use the nutrients that remain inside the ant. Slowly, the fungus prepares for its next stage. Then, after enough time has passed, something begins to emerge from the body. A strange fungal structure grows outward. In some cases, it rises from the head or another part of the insect. The ant that once walked through the forest is now carrying the next generation of the parasite. The fungus eventually reaches maturity, and now it has one final task. It must spread. The fungal structure produces spores. These microscopic particles are released into the surrounding environment. Some drift through the humid air. Others fall toward the forest floor. And somewhere below, another ant may be walking through the exact area where those spores land. The cycle begins again. A new ant encounters the spores. The fungus finds a new host. The infection develops. The ant eventually leaves its colony. It climbs, it bites, and eventually the fungus emerges. This is why Ophiocordyceps is so fascinating. It is not simply a fungus that kills insects. It is part of a highly specialized biological system that has developed over millions of years of evolution. But one question remains. How can a fungus influence the behavior of an animal? For a long time, people imagined a simple explanation. The fungus infects the ant's brain and takes control of it like a tiny puppeteer. But real biology is much more complicated. Research suggests that the fungus can affect the ant's body in multiple ways. It can interact with muscles. It can influence chemical signals. It can alter the insect's behavior. And it may affect the nervous system without simply replacing the ant's brain with a fungal one. The fungus does not need to think like an animal. It does not need to understand the forest. It does not need to make plans in the way humans do. Natural selection has slowly shaped the relationship between the fungus and the ant. Over countless generations, fungal strains that were better at infecting ants had a greater chance of surviving. And the ants that were better at resisting infection had a greater chance of protecting their colonies. This created an evolutionary arms race. The fungus became better at infecting ants, and ants became better at defending themselves. Ant colonies are not completely helpless. Social insects have developed their own defenses against disease. Workers constantly clean one another. They remove waste. They inspect their nestmates. And when an individual becomes sick or dies, the colony may remove it from the nest. This behavior can reduce the chance of infection spreading through the entire colony. In a way, the colony behaves like a superorganism. The survival of the group is more important than the survival of one individual ant. This battle between ants and fungi is happening on a scale that humans often overlook. A single leaf can become the stage for an entire biological drama. An ant walks across the forest floor. A microscopic spore attaches to its body. The infection grows. The ant leaves its colony. It climbs. It bites. And eventually the fungus emerges. All of this can happen without a single human being aware of it. The most disturbing part is that this is not an isolated phenomenon. Nature is filled with parasites that manipulate their hosts. Some alter movement, some change behavior, some force animals into places where the parasite can continue its life cycle. Ophiocordyceps is simply one of the most visually dramatic examples. Because in this case, the final result looks almost exactly like a zombie story. But the word zombie can be misleading. The ant is not undead. It is not thinking like a human zombie. And the fungus is not evil. There is no intention behind the infection. There is only evolution. The fungus is trying to survive and reproduce. The ant is trying to survive the infection. And the forest becomes the battlefield. This is what makes the story so fascinating. The fungus does not need to destroy the entire world. It does not need to infect every ant. It only needs to successfully infect enough hosts to continue its life cycle. And the ants do not need to eliminate every fungus. They only need to survive long enough for their colony to continue. This balance has existed for an incredibly long time. So the next time you see an ordinary ant walking across a leaf, remember that the world around it may be far stranger than it appears. Somewhere nearby, microscopic spores may be waiting. A fungus may be searching for a new host. And deep inside the forest, another ant may already be climbing toward the place where its life will end. Not because of magic, not because of science fiction, but because nature has spent millions of years creating mechanisms that are often stranger than anything humans could invent. The zombie ant is real. The fungus is real. And the most terrifying part is that this story is happening right now, somewhere in the forests of our planet.